great to be with you again for another edition of Inside the Capitol. I'm Jason Adkins, Executive Director of the Minnesota Catholic Conference, the public policy voice of the Catholic Church in Minnesota, bringing you another update about what's going on at our state capitol following the return from the Easter break. Legislators got back to work. We've already passed the 10,000 bill mark for the legislative session, so there's a lot to keep track of, a lot to stay on top of, and the bills keep coming at a very, very fast pace. This week, the one things that we wanted to highlight for you, first of all, reminder that tax day is coming up, and you may recall that the Minnesota Catholic Conference and some other partner organizations, including Legal Aid, the Minnesota Budget Project, Children's Defense Fund, helped spearhead into enactment the Minnesota Child Tax Credit, which provides for a $1,750 tax credit per child. Now that tax credit phases out as the family income expands. There is, however, no limit on the number of children who are eligible for that tax credit. So you might think you don't qualify for that, but it's worth checking out. I want to just provide a few examples. A single parent with one child, income of $25,000, that's an $1,850 credit. Married couple filing jointly with 6 kids, income of $70,000, that's $6,650. So the tax credit can be quite sizable. I know of a family with 8 kids who received a $7,500 child tax credit. So it's making an impact on families, especially bigger families, and so we just want to make sure that you go to our website, familiesfirstproject.com/CTC. Again, that's familiesfirstproject.com/CTC, where you can learn more about the child tax credit, see if you're eligible, make sure you tell your friends. There's flyers and resources for tax filing and tax preparation. There are a lot of free resources for people who haven't filed before. You do have to file a tax return to get the credit. And so that leads me to my next point, which is the governor is trying to advance the child tax credit by creating an improved program where some of the families who are eligible for the child tax credit would be able to receive those as advance payments. So in the tax legislation in the House File 5247, authored by the tax chair Aisha Gomez, this plan to create an advanced child tax credit is in the works, and we're supportive of that plan and that proposal as a way to make it easier for people to receive that credit as in kind of an advanced payment. And so everyone pays taxes, regardless if you pay income taxes or not. You're paying fees and sales taxes, renter's tax, property tax, all kinds of taxes. And so everyone at a certain income under a certain income level is eligible for this child tax credit. Really want to underscore the importance of making that happen and the ongoing work to improve that credit. Now there was an effort this week as well to expand eligibility for the child tax credit, and we are also supportive of that. So we want to see more people be eligible for the child tax credit. Unfortunately, all the money that was in the budget and the budget surplus has been spent and allocated for different things. So it's going to make it hard in the short term to do that. But as the budget and tax decisions continue to be made this year and in the years ahead, we want to try to continue to expand the eligibility for that very important child tax credit. Why? Because our families are doing the most important work of raising the next generation. We have a workforce shortage in our society. We want to make it easier for people to get married, stay married, have children, help them flourish, and the child tax credit speaks to those important concerns and others, including the pro-life cause, which is important as well because we want to be able to walk with women in need. We want to say you're going to be supported, you're going to have the economic assistance necessary and the barriers removed to allow you to bring a child into the world and support that child and help that child flourish. So child tax credit, it's like a Swiss Army knife from a social policy standpoint. It accomplishes a lot of different goals. Again, to learn more about that, to learn how you can become an advocate for those family benefits programs, go to thefamiliesfirstproject.com. Other big things that came up this week. Sports betting, sports gambling. It's in the news, and this issue is at the front and center of Minnesota legislative debates right now. We're reading about Shohei Ohtani, the Los Angeles Dodgers slugger pitcher, and the challenges and the investigation surrounding whether he was involved in gambling through his interpreter or whatever it is. March Madness is upon us. The Final Four is coming up this weekend. Basketball coaches in the college level and at the pro level are stepping forward to say, this has gone too far. We're having players harassed for scoring at the end of games and breaking the over-under. There's players being harassed at the college level by fellow students and gamblers because of their activities. And indeed, it is March Madness when it comes to gambling and the problems of problem gambling that are being covered in the news media right now, which makes it all the more wild that our legislators are not pressing the pause button here and trying to understand what the problems of gambling are. Right now, the debate is focused on who's going to get the action, who's going to get a piece of the pie. Is it going to be the Native American tribes who will hold the licenses? Is it going to be the racetracks? Is it going to be the sports teams? Who are the stakeholders who are going to get a piece of the action? That's really what the debate is about. Politically, what's been has not gotten the same attention is the problem of gambling, the abuses, how the state is benefiting or not benefiting from the tax resources. Fortunately, the legislature has a tremendous champion speaking about these issues and bringing them forward, and we're doing what we can to help him, and that's Senator John Marty from Roseville. Senator Marty has introduced his own gambling bill. He doesn't support gambling expansion, but recognizes that if we're going to have gambling expansion, these should be the minimum safeguards in place, including a ban on in-game betting, push notifications, certain limitations on betting on college sports, all sorts of safeguards and limitations. The only good argument against Senator Marty's bill is that the proprietors won't make as much in terms of profits. So it's important to put people over profits. We thank Senator Marty for bringing his bill forward, Senate File 5330. It's co-sponsored by Senator Dibble and Senator Aaron May Quaid. And so it brings together unlikely allies across the political spectrum, very conservative Republicans who are opposed to gambling expansion, at the same time very progressive Democrats who see the ways in which problem gambling and predatory gambling could be exploitative of people as well. So bringing together unlikely political bedfellows to oppose profits over people, we need to put people over profits. Senator Marty's bill is the bill that makes the most sense if we are going to have sports gambling, so I'd encourage people to check that out. That's been getting some good news coverage in the media in the last couple of days as well. That bill is Senate File 5330. We're going to continue to talk to legislators about why we should not expand sports betting, but glad that Senator Marty has brought this bill forward that really puts all the best safeguards around problem gambling into one place. Religious freedom, still a big issue. We're working on the Minnesota Human Rights Act religious exemption. 12 significant religious organizations across the religious spectrum, Catholics and Protestants of every stripe, Muslims and Jewish groups, all stepping forward to say we need this religious exemption so that we can have direction over how we govern ourselves, how we pick our ministers and our clergy and our teachers to advance our mission, our principles, our values. Churches should have the autonomy to do so. The Supreme Court has protected that right, but we need clear direction in Minnesota statutes to guide regulatory agencies and potential litigants about what civil rights people of faith have. And that's what we're talking about, is protecting the civil rights of people of faith with a religious exemption. So we really encourage folks to continue to take action on this. We've had thousands of people across the religious spectrum already take action through our petition and our action alert. You can find that at mncatholic.org/MHRA, mncatholic.org/MHRA, so that we can get that religious exemption restored into law. It was the law for 30 years until last year. We want to get that restored into law. Again, mncatholic.org/MHRA. Another good news on the religious freedom front is that as Democrat legislators in the House and the Senate continue to expand coverage for services that we find healthcare services that we find objectionable, not authentic healthcare, fortunately there has been some flexibility in making sure that in the coverage of things like abortion and gender-affirming care, that there are exemptions for religious employers, both for-profit and nonprofit and churches. And so those exemptions and amendments were accepted in the House this week. They've been previously accepted into the Senate in the versions of those bills. They were accepted in the committee this week, in the House Health, Finance, and Policy Committee. We're grateful to the authors, who we just have disagreements with about what constitutes authentic health care, but recognize that Supreme Court precedent on this issue is pretty clear, and at the same time this makes sense to have a comprehensive set of coverage exemptions for religiously affiliated employers. And so a really important initiative spearheaded by the Minnesota Catholic Conference and some of our partner allies, and we're glad to have those exemptions being in those bills. We'll make sure that they're going to be passed into law with those exemptions intact, but some good news at least on the religious freedom front this week here in Minnesota. Again, we're grateful for all the action and steps that you take. I just want to highlight assisted suicide still has not received a hearing in the Senate. We're confident that that bill is not likely to move forward this year. Nothing's done until they gavel out in May, but we're confident that because of the thousands of messages and phone calls and visits that people have been having with their elected officials, that bill probably won't move forward this year. So that's good news. It's not all doom and gloom. There are some good things going on at the Capitol, and part of that happens because of the way in which Catholics in the pew are taking action through the Catholic Advocacy Network. So don't forget to go to mncatholic.org, sign up, take action, continue to build relationships with your legislators. Those messages do, in fact, make a difference. I get that question all the time. Those messages really make a difference. The legislator might not agree with you, but perhaps their perspective has changed, or their support for or opposition to certain bills is strengthened or weakened. So I can't underscore enough the importance of continuing to take action through the Catholic Advocacy Network. We'll be back next week with another update on important initiatives and events and what's going on at the Capitol. But for now, I'm Jason Adkins, wishing you a blessed rest of your Easter octave. Thank you.